The justices on Colorado's state Supreme Court now need extra security patrols by the FBI and by the Denver police. They tell us it's because of threats made against them in the wake of their 4-3 ruling disqualifying President Trump from the 2024 ballot. Convenient, right? It's the perfect optics for the left. The scary orange man who led an insurrection is now sicking his minions on the brave court, trying to save democracy by ending democracy. It's almost too perfect of an optic for them. That's why some investigative reporters are starting to ask questions. But the authorities are staying tight-lipped on exactly what these threats consist of, or really any other pertinent details. A spokesperson for Denver PD even used the FBI's favorite line that they can't give you any details about these supposed threats because it's an active and ongoing investigation. Again, too perfect, right? Investigative reporter Julie Kelly explains today that a lot of the quote-unquote reporting being used to create this atmosphere of fear and paranoia in Denver comes from, quote, a group run by Fusion's Dan Jones to concoct right-wing violence data, and most are probably Fed posts. Now, a similar dynamic played out with January 6th. We were told that there were a bunch of extremist posts online by groups planning to commit violence that day, and yet the House Republicans currently reinvestigating the sham work of the original House Select Committee on January 6th have said that pretty much all of those group chats revolved around Fed infiltrators and agitators trying to introduce violent rhetoric into unsuspecting message boards to lay the groundwork for what I would call entrapment. So going back to this Fusion Dan Jones, you may remember Fusion GPS and the central role it played in the Russiagate hoax. Now, Jeff Carlson from Epic TV replied to Kelly by adding, quote, Dan Jones is a former intelligence staffer for Feinstein. He worked with Fusion GPS and founded Penn Quarter Group in early 2017, where he continued to fund Steele and Fusion with Soros money. He's also former FBI. FBI knows he's a political operative and they're taking direction from him, end quote. To which Kelly then responded, quote, male version of Mary McCord, head up some leftist-funded group to fabricate data on domestic violent extremists, then launder info through former colleagues at DOJ who then plant at regime-friendly news organizations. Wash, rinse, repeat, end quote. And that, in a nutshell, is how we live in such a fake world. Fake violence is made up against the regime to make us look dangerous in order to justify illegal and extrajudicial tactics being used to suppress us, while real violence being perpetrated against us by the left is brushed away as par for the course. You just punch Nazis, right? Such as the fact that Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene got swatted for an 8th time on Christmas Day. This means that emergency services were falsely called to her home. Usually this is done to try and have something bad happen to the person being swatted, including the possibility of being shot by the police. Because if you have no clue that cops have been called to your house, and next thing you know, there's a bunch of yelling and guns being waved in your face, you might instinctively fight back so you don't know who's there and what they want, because you're so confused and you don't even have time to register what's going on. But then from the cops' point of view, if they've been called out to the house over a fake call of, say, domestic violence or something like that, they may shoot, assuming that you're the bad guy, that you're trying to fire on them or ambush them, not realizing that the person is innocent, has literally no clue what's going on. Despite the Congresswoman having an idea of who she thinks is targeting her family, even posting some of these death threats online for people to see the evidence she has, she keeps being told by the feds that there's nothing they can do. Joining us now to discuss is radio host and OAN contributor Andrea Kay. Andrea, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I think these swatting attempts can definitely be considered death threats, and it appears both MTG and the parents of my former colleague Jack Posobiec both were swatted on Christmas, so just yesterday. And yet the FBI, as we hear, they're, looking around going, I don't know, we can't do anything about it. It speaks volumes, right there, their silence on this.
Well, absolutely. And these are just two of the high-profile people who were swatted. There's been some other high-profile conservatives swatted. I believe that includes Steve Bannon swatted in the middle of a broadcast, right? One of my favorite X accounts, Cat fill in the blank, if you know who I'm talking about. He was swatted multiple times recently as well. Look, this is incredibly dangerous. I would call this, and everybody has to know, right? Who doesn't know that a gamer pulled off this hoax and there was a man who was killed in, I believe, 2019 in Ohio as a result of swatting. So we're all familiar with the term suicide by cop, right? Where somebody does something stupid in order to engage the cops and force an altercation so that they can be killed by cops.